COVID-19 cases in Indonesia surge, and the health ministry says Indonesia is at high risk for the poliovirus. Stay tuned for details. Selamat siang. Welcome to the latest news from Bali and Indonesia. This is November 21st, 2022, and my name is Bruce. And I'm back. We'll talk about that in just a minute. What about the weather right now? Well, it is overcast and humid, really humid. We've had rain the past few days. The temperature right now in Singaraja is 30.2 degrees Celsius. The wind speed is 6.4 kilometers per hour, and the humidity is 74%. Humid. So yes, I'm back. At the end of the video, I'll talk about cataracts and my cataract operation and about BPJS. So if you're interested in all that, that is at the end of the video, and you can use the timestamps if you want to leap over there. And of course, if you're not interested in any of that, well, it just makes the video shorter, doesn't it? I'm working with one good eye and one eye that is basically not functioning at this point. And so we'll see how this goes. My apologies to people that have made comments and asked questions. I haven't answered them. My doctor told me no computer work for a week. And as I said before, doctors in Indonesia tend to be a little conservative about this kind of stuff. And so I have stayed off. I've been really tired. The operation was uncomfortable, let's say, and I'm recovering, but slowly. I'm older and it takes me more time to, get over things. So we'll just see how things go, but I am here. Okay. So let's get started. Well, we have not talked about COVID recently, and numbers are going up, not just in Indonesia, in many places around the world, but they're really going up compared to where they were just a few months ago. National COVID-19 caseload surges to 8,000 per day. Following the current global trend, Indonesia has reached the 8,000 mark in its daily COVID-19 caseloads. And experts are suggesting that the highly contagious Omicron subvariant XBB, along with low booster dose coverage and health protocol complacency, are to blame for this recent surge. And numbers going up in Bali too. Remember, we were down below 25 not that long ago. And the other day, was it Wednesday? We are up at 140. So something's happening. So on Wednesday, health authorities reported 8,486 new cases. First time in 8 months that the country's reported over 8,000 new cases. And that was back in March, when the country was recovering from the third wave infections. With the addition of these new cases now, the country has 58,000 active cases, whereas just a month ago, it was half that. And deaths are also on the rise. 56 deaths on Monday. It's the first time the daily COVID-19 fatalities have reached above 50 deaths since April. And other countries are also reporting similar results in their caseloads. According to the WHO's latest weekly report, Southeast Asia and the Americas have reported a caseload increase of more than 10% over the past week, with Japan, South Korea, and the US being the biggest contributors. What about Taiwan? A lot of my friends in Taiwan have had COVID recently. While the recent surge has come following reports of local transmissions of the XBB subvariant, health experts say that waning public adherence to the health protocols and low booster coverage are also to blame. And so what do we have? We've got the subvariant XBB, I think it's also called Griffin, and we got low booster coverage, and people are not following health protocols, right? And we've talked about that many, many times. Since the case numbers began to rise last month, and I mentioned this last month, the government has yet to introduce any new pandemic measures, as it was focused recently on hosting the Group of 20 Bali Summit. And that is over and past. So what is the government going to do about this increase in COVID cases, especially with the holiday season coming up just around the corner? We're already here, almost the end of November. According to one health expert, he said that the government should not hesitate in applying stricter curbs on people's movements. He said this is particularly so if the daily caseload starts to show a more drastic increase, which would overwhelm the national health system. And he called on the government to expand coverage of its COVID-19 booster drive and allocate resources for a second booster shot for the elderly and people with comorbidities. As of Thursday, a few days ago, 172 million Indonesians, or 73% of the country's target of 236, have received the two-dose primary vaccination. However, only 28% have received the booster shot, or what's generally called the third dose. Public health expert Chandra Yoga Aditama, and I've talked about him many times over the last few years, said the country needs to impose tighter social curbs in response to the rising caseload. He said, a few months ago, we were still reporting just around 100 cases a day. How can it be that despite the increase, the government is not treating this any differently from previous months? He also urged the government to boost testing and tracing in light of the country's high case fatality rate, which he said is a cause for alarm. According to the National COVID-19 Task Force spokesperson, Pak Wiku, and talked about Pak Wiku many times as well, he said, let's not focus on which variant is to blame. We need to get the cases under control, and we can do that as long as health protocols and vaccinations are being followed. He said the government is hesitant to impose mobility restrictions for fear that it might hamper the country's economic recovery, especially as it seems that we're about to go into a global recession. And so we're going to be back to COVID-19 again. I thought it was all gone, and here it comes. Well, we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out, won't we? The COVID numbers going up around Indonesia, and that includes Bali. And what does the governor have to say about that? Koster asked for the PPKM status to be revoked. COVID-19 case in Bali is not worrying. COVID-19 cases in Bali are going up like they are around the country, and that's attributed to the new subvariant XBB. But the governor says no problems because most of the patients here are asymptomatic. I followed the developments that went to the hospital too. Not much. There are no public complaints. Usually in 2020 and 2021, there's something that is worrying. There's concern in the community, which I can assume about the health facilities that we have right up to the puskesmas. If there's serious symptoms, it will definitely be crowded. So he's saying not a lot of people in the puskesmas. Most people aren't going to the puskesmas anymore. Most people aren't reporting anything that seems like a symptom from my experience. So the governor said he's already talked about PPKM and social mobility restrictions, and he thinks they should be gotten away with here in Bali. He said there's no confirmation about this, but he thinks it should happen. Why does he think it should happen? Because he said it should happen sooner rather than later, because compared to other provinces, Bali is in a really good situation. And this is evident from the fact that foreign and domestic tourists to Bali are getting better, and growth in tourism recovery has occurred. Because, as I've said for a number of months now, everybody is pretending like COVID-19 doesn't exist anymore, despite the fact that cases are going up around the world. Based on data from the Bali Province COVID-19 Task Force, on Saturday the 19th, there were 137 positive daily cases, consisting of 117 Indonesian citizens and 20 foreign nationals. From these data, 83 patients were declared cured and 1 patient died. Still, based on this data, there are 7 districts in Bali that are included in the low-risk zone, marked in yellow, and that's Badung, Gianyar, Jembrana, Klungkung, Karangasem, Bangli, and Buleleng. In addition, there's 1 district and 1 city in the moderate risk zone, marked in orange, Tabanan and Denpasar. And as of Saturday, there were 1,712 active cases spread across 186 referral hospitals, or 10.86%, and 1,526 patients, or 89.4%, were in independent isolation. The percentage of bed usage, or the BOR, of hospitals in Bali, 12.72%. Non-intensive was 9.30%. And as of Saturday, the third or the booster dose of the vaccine had reached 74.51% in Bali. And so the governor's saying everything is cool, no problems, that our numbers are going up here in Bali or anywhere else. We should get rid of PPKM completely in Bali because there's a lot of tourists here. Okay, I'm not the governor. The genie has been let out of the bottle, and so is the genie going to be put back in the bottle? Not very likely. Nobody wants to go back to restrictions, and nobody wants to be wearing a mask. Social distancing, as I've said for 2 years plus, doesn't exist here. How is this going to pan out? I don't know. Now that G20 is over, maybe there will be some emphasis put on the situation here in terms of COVID. So cases of COVID-19 going up throughout Indonesia, and that includes Bali. And what about polio that I mentioned at the start of the video? Health Ministry says Indonesia at high risk of polio spread. What does that mean, polio? Or are we talking about polio? A case of polio was discovered in Aceh. And so the government is on alert about this. Why is polio here now? The government says it's due to low vaccination coverage. According to a health ministry spokesperson, if we look at 30 provinces and 415 districts and cities, they all fall into the criteria of high risk because their polio vaccination coverage is low. So Indonesia runs a high risk of polio extraordinary occurrence, KLB. Indonesia is currently using a bivalent oral polio vaccine, BOPV, for polio immunization. The oral vaccine, which is used to prevent type 1 and type 2 polioviruses, needs to be administered 4 times at an interval of 4 months. Then the vaccine needs to be administered in combination with an inactivated polio vaccine, IPV, in the form of an injection. A booster vaccine needs to be provided to children at the age of 9 months, along with the measles or rubella vaccine, according to the health ministry spokesperson. However, the OPV4 and the IPV vaccination coverage is relatively low in Indonesia. In 2020, vaccination coverage stood at 86.8% for the OPV4 and 37.7% for IPV. In 2021, the OPV4 coverage fell to 80.2%. However, the IPV coverage rose to 66.2%. Still, I don't know why we don't have everybody covered for polio vaccine here. That's just crazy. So Indonesia needs to work hard at getting all the children vaccinated. The polio case that I mentioned was found in Aceh, as I said, this November, and it was because the OPV4 and IPV polio vaccination programs did not work for 4 consecutive years in districts and cities in that province. And so the government is looking at this very seriously, and there will be follow-ups on this one. And what about Pak Sandiaga Uno and tourism? What would this be without a report about him? Attend the German Beach Festival. The minister encourages communities to develop coastal tourism. So Pak Sandiaga said the German Beach Festival is a collaboration between the local government and the local community in developing tourism in the creative economy in Badung. The festival started a few days ago on the 18th, and it will be ongoing until the 27th of November. And it consists of public discussions, barong festivals, legong festivals, ketchak performances, music festival, clothing festivals, and MSME bazaar. So a lot of stuff going on at the beach. The minister hopes that with training facilities for local communities, there will be more national and international class events. He said, we need to prepare this training for the implementation of the festival so that it can be upgraded and can be involved in national events and maybe even international events. And during his visit to the festival, the tourism minister released hatchlings and he played a guitar made from processed waste. And he also got some souvenirs from residual plastic. He said, I got souvenirs as a memento. Namely, souvenirs made from residual plastic, where this German beach will also become a beach for recycling residual plastic. Good for them. Okay, and so if you're down in the area and you got time, you might want to stop by German Beach. I don't even know where it is, and see what's going on with the festival. Now, if you've been here long enough, you know that there are a lot of ceremonies. There are a lot of people who say they can control the rain, and that when there are big events that come up, that people resort sometimes to rain controllers, rain handlers, to keep it from raining so as not to ruin, say, a wedding or a big graduation or some government function. Well, apparently that was an issue during the G20. Not only Jokowi, Koster also said that he did not use a rain handler during the G20 Summit in Bali. So the event was held during the rainy season, okay? Not the best time to have it in Bali, but it was here. And as you know, if you've been here or if you're following the news about here, you know it's been raining a lot in the last couple of days here in Bulang. Wow, big storms. So despite worrying about the rain ruining things, the governor did not resort to a rain handler. He said the traditional Hindu ceremonies were performed in order to keep the rain away. He said that by requesting that everything would run smoothly for the meetings, that there would be no rain and that there was no rain that interfered with everything. He said, I don't use a rain charmer. I only do sincere prayers and reach out to temples in Bali. And so ceremonies have been being carried out about the G20 since January 17th. Apparently the first one was January 17th, almost a year ago. And ceremonies have been carried out at 23 temples around Bali this year at various times. And this article, if you want to read it, link is below as always. If you want to see if your favorite temple is there, you can take a look. But ceremonies were carried out here. And so there was no rain that interfered with things. There was rain, but apparently not any rain interfering with any specific ceremonies. And some people said President Jokowi was using a rain handler as well. And he said, no, I was not. He said, I've decided on a gala dinner at GWK, prepared the lighting properly, and the BMKG, that's the Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics Agency, forecast that it will rain that day. So after receiving this information, the committee planned to carry out weather engineering. And so they sent planes up with salt and they seeded the clouds so that it rained early so that it would not rain later. And apparently that works. He said, no, we are very scientific. Every time there is a cloud that raises the potential for rain, the TMC team immediately ambushes it. The TMC is the Weather Modification Technology Team. In total, 29 tons of salt were sprinkled in the clouds over 28 flight sorties. The president said the goal is for the clouds to be dispelled immediately, to be sent down as rain immediately before entering the event area. I guess that's the event time. And what happened yesterday with the clouds that already closed evenly over the event area immediately descended as rain a few hours before the event started, and they used 4 planes for that one. Wow. So what do we got here? We got the governor of Bali has been praying and been praying since January, and that's why we didn't have rain. And he said, honest, sincere prayer is keeping rain from disrupting the G20. And the president said, we're doing this scientifically. We're seeding the clouds, making it rain early. Maybe both of them were working in conjunction. And what about my favorite place in Bali, Canggu? Traffic jams in Canggu will drag on. The Badung Regency Government says the solution is in the province of Bali. So if you're here and you've been to Canggu, you know that traffic down there is terrible. That Canggu shortcut, you know, is just been one long running joke for a number of years now. And people have been pushing to get it fixed. And, well, nobody's taking responsibility. But it seems that these are provincial roads and not Regency roads. And so the provincial government, the government of Bali, has to take care of this, not the Regency, not Badung or any of the other Regencies. However, the Regency is going to make arrangements at the Padonan. I don't know where the Padonan intersection is, but it's still being discussed, and there's some budget issues around that, and they have to make some changes in the budget so that they can make some changes there. But for the overall change in traffic flow in Canggu, it's up to the provincial government. And a lot of discussions about, oh, this makes Bali look bad. Traffic is bad everywhere in Bali. Kuta, Denpasar, Ubud, Canggu, Seminyak, Singaraja, not so much. And I've been gone for, well, a while now, I guess about 10 days. And this story is still in the news. I was surprised. You remember the porn couple with the red kabaya? Well, Bali-born student, new suspect in perverted red kabaya video. East Java Regional Police have arrested a female student with the initials CZ, born in Denpasar, who lives in Java, and the arrest is strongly suggested of being related to the making of the Kabaya Mera porn video. According to the Director of Special Criminal Investigation Unit for East Java Regional Police, he said, "It's true, we have secured the third suspect." And you remember I was talking about in the last one, they said that there was some threesomes, and so they were looking for the third suspect, and it appears that they have found her. The head of public relations of East Java Regional Police said that CZ was part of this threesome, and that they spread these videos through several accounts, some via Twitter and also through Telegram. According to him, CZ is a student, a university student, they thought originally, but on further investigation, they found that she's a makeup artist. And regarding her motive, CZ admitted to investigators that she was invited. First, she befriended AH, and then she was invited because she had a lot on her mind, and so she takes it out by acting in porn videos. And they were indeed making the videos in the Surabaya area, as I talked about in the last one. And according to the police, together with AH and ACS, the two previous suspects, they created 33 pornographic video contents, I guess 33 threesomes. So is this the end to this story? I don't know. But it's been a long, humorous journey into the world of pornographic filmmaking here in Indonesia. And so for those of you that are interested, what about the eye surgery, the cataract surgery, and about BPJS? Cataract surgery went a little longer than expected, usually 10 to 20 minutes, according to all the information I found online. Mine went around 45 minutes because the surgeon said the cataract was really thick. They had difficulty breaking it up and then sucking it out. So as a BPJS patient, well, there were 9 when I was there, and the 7 had to have surgery done on the left eye, 2 on the right eye. So they took us we waited around for a while. This whole process took me about 6.5 hours on a Saturday morning. And then we moved to another room, putting eye drops into the local anesthetic. And then they took us into the waiting room in the surgery area. And they said, okay, we're going to do the left people first because there's 7 of us. Poor right people had to wait a long time. And once we got in there, then they picked people based on how dilated your pupils were. The surgery was, well, let's say it was uncomfortable. I don't know that I'd say it's painful, but it was definitely uncomfortable. I'm recovering right now. I have to go back and see the doctor in another week. I'm taking eye drops and I finished my oral antibiotics. And wow, it's amazing. I have these glasses on because, well, my right eye, which still has cataracts, can barely see anything. And my left eye, well, take it off and it's like things are so bright. It's amazing. But I can't focus on anything close up. I can see far away. That's wonderful. But close up, no. Waiting on that. So I've got a doctor's appointment in another week. And then I guess we'll talk about doing the other eye. And so far with BPJS, well, there's a lot of waiting. And, I've heard that if you just pay for this privately, it goes much quicker. But so far, no money has left my wallet, which is a great thing. And so we'll just have to see how things go. There is a video that I did on the RARA, the placenta for my grandson, and you can see that right up here online, and a new cooking video on Sue's channel, which should be up by the time I post this, and it is up here. as well. And if it's not, there'll be an O in there. I'm working on editing it. Editing is still kind of slow. So that is it for today. Thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today. Stay safe. And I will see you on Wednesday.